Thanks a lot, Bayasan, for your great sense of debate and discussion with people. I'm really happy to be part of this meeting. I will, as I'm not my first time to participate in such wonderful meeting, I will start by a quote which I quoted from a British Indian philosopher. His name is Zidane Sardar. He by the way, he made this quote in 2013. He quote, all that was normal has now evaporated. We have entered the post-normal times, the in-between period where all orthodoxies are dying. No ones have not yet emerged, and nothing really makes sense. In fact, I'm starting by this because the previous speakers really pointed the most important things which we can understand regarding the current situation, where we have not only the COVID-19 impact and post-COVID-19 impact, but also the primary impact and what we have seen, the Ukrainian-Russian war, and the impact of the geopolitical new situation of the North African. I will not mention only West North African as a part of the game, but the whole Africa is one of the game. I mean, I guess a lot of points, if you like to talk about only North African, we are not so much lucky in the North African. First, we compare that quickly. Egypt did well during the COVID-19 crisis, 2020 and 2021, where really the economic growth was a little bit. Egypt was the only country in the MENA region with positive growth. GDP growth, and despite all the consequences of the COVID-19, we see that the government's swift and the measure taken to counter what we call it the impact of the COVID-19. I mean that the Egyptian government has taken a lot of measures, either fiscal policy or monetary policy, and particularly the change of the climate of doing business, which was totally impacted and affected by the COVID-19. Let's remind our audience that Egypt was among the rare countries who are not doing that kind of total lockdown. I mean, during the highest level of pandemic calculated number of proven cases, we have only, let's say, one week or 10 days of lockdown, and it wasn't a total lockdown. So perhaps that was one of the forces behind the keeping the level of let's say the economic growth. If I go quickly to say that Egypt not only in MENA region was the only, but also countries like Morocco did well. However, the global picture of the North African during the COVID-19 wasn't not that much, in fact, great, because country like Algeria did kind of total lockdown. A lot of factories and particularly petrochemical industry was affected, as also the oil price went down, and Algeria is one of the exporter, and the big GDP part is depending on the oil resources and revenue. We have to mention also Tunisia. Unfortunately, Tunisia is still politically has some concerns regarding the political stability, as well as Libya, as all know. Perhaps Morocco and Egypt were the country who went quickly to grab that. If I would like to, in fact, to summarize quickly the points, not only regarding the North Africa, but for Africa and globally, we have first the question perhaps today we have to answer: is COVID-19 a geopolitical game changer? I foreseen that a lot of changes are happening not only during the COVID-19 lockdown, but also in our minds, as not as experts, but as industrial people, as political parties, as people who are making our society are rethinking I go quickly saying that the crisis revealing some kind of new world where we had a problem in assuring there was a big stress on the test of COVID-19. We didn't have availability to do the vaccination as well as the test. The second point that we confirmed problem where we start to think that the borders are far more blurred in the day competition world, that the question of border wasn't so much important during the crisis because we need to continue the supply chain, and we fight it against that kind of nationalistic feeling as we are all in the same crisis. The third point, which was very important, that we have seen that developing countries and Africa did much better than Western countries in terms of the managing the crisis. I wouldn't say the number of victim deaths or infected, but also globally, despite one very important thing we have noticed during the crisis, particularly in Egypt, that the size of informal sector is considered to be about 65% of the national economy, where a lot of people are working in informal sector, and during the crisis, those people were not be able to be covered by any pension or any social security, and it was a huge stress on the country. The point also was clearly during the crisis that global and local value chain. We have all seen that the importing items during the crisis was so much difficult. However, countries who are having a strong local value chain, surprisingly, the World Development Report of the World Bank in 2020, was titled, which was edited in December 2019, was covered by the global and local value chain. It was kind of prediction from the World Bank that we have seen the huge importance of the global and local value chain, and particularly in terms of having some local products. The last point I mentioned that unfortunately Africa was doing great, and particularly North African countries like Egypt, in terms of achieving the SDGs. And we have seen a lot of not only the stopping a lot of projects, but a lot of indicators should be reviewed. And I guess we have a recent report mentioning that we have to add about 2.5 trillion US dollar. We know that annually we have a gap of 2.5 trillion US dollar to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Now we are talking about 1.5 to 1.7 trillion more due to the COVID-19 impact. I didn't mention at all the Ukrainian war, which will also impact. Last point, I just to in fact give for the debate, I guess, COVID-19 as a definitive geopolitical change, game changer, puts the hands particularly in items like digitalization, importance of fintech, the local value chain, but also what we call it the economic national model. You know, country like Egypt was depending on remittance, on tourism, in Suez Canal, and those items were totally blocked during the COVID-19. So we come again to think about economic diversification, about replacing the imported item, about, you know, the stress on the Egyptian currency is huge due to the fact that the economic growth is also demanding to export a lot of machines, to import a lot of items. So all of those items are really making the kind of great game changer. I stop here and I will wait for the question.